Hey, horse friends, this is Becca Salamone, the voice of Alabama Horse Talk Radio, coming to you on location from the MidState Farmers Cooperative in Columbiana, Alabama, and I'm standing here with a very smart man. He is a scientist that works on equine nutrition and has come up with a really great product that is very effective for horses, and it's called Total Equine, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that. His name is Dr. Harry Anderson. How you doing, Dr. Anderson?
Well, good to see you. Privileged to be here.
Yeah, we got to interview one time before. I guess it was about a year and a half ago on Alabama Horse Talk Radio.
Yes, ma'am.
And you told me all about your past and how you had gotten into animal nutrition and stuff. But tell the folks that will be listening and watching today a little bit about your history with horses.
Well, my history goes back a number of years. Actually, when I was a child, I learned to drive a pair of Percherons when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I don't know why they let me do it, but they let me do it in the hayfield. And I love horses ever since, and I've been acquainted with them off and on over the years, but about 30 years ago I started dabbling a little bit in some equine nutrition work while I was doing feedlot consulting, and people started asking me questions, and I got intrigued by some of the things that I was seeing and learning with the stuff I'd done. So in 1996 I decided to become serious about it, and I wrote a formula down on a piece of paper that from all the information I had used and the science that I'd read and all that, and I wrote one formula down on a piece of paper, and it's the same formula we're using today in 2015.
Wow, that's amazing. So what is different about your product that is digestible for the horses or more digestible?
Well, there's several things. One is you hit the digestibility. That's the critical part of this whole project was to make something that was extremely digestible and something that would dissolve in the small intestine. You know, in the digestive tract of a horse, the small intestine is by far the most efficient part for absorbing nutrients. So what I wanted to do was find a way to make everything dissolve in the small intestine so we could be able to absorb all those very expensive nutrients, the trace minerals and the vitamins and those kinds of things, right in the small intestine before it gets into the hind gut, where it's not very efficient at all for absorbing nutrients. The second thing was that I wanted to find a way so that I never would get any raw starch into the hind gut. You know, in a pelleted feed or a sweet feed or something like that with cracked grains or whole grains or even pelleted grains, there's always some raw starch in there that gets in the hind gut. This is where we cause problems with the horses digestively, and that is that raw starch in the hind gut is fermented by the bacteria very rapidly, and it causes gas formation and lactic acid formation, which can cause colic and foundry. So what we did is, when I make it in the extruded form, like this form that I have right here, that looks like dog food or fish food, this is there's no raw starch in it. So the starch all disappears in the small intestine and never gets into the hind gut. So I've had many calls over the years from people that said their horse got in the feed room and ate a half bag of feed, and they were just panicky. And I said, well, don't worry about it. It's not going to do anything. And I said, just watch the horse and call me back if there's a problem. Never had a call back.
There you go.
Because the starch from what little starch is in here never does reach the hind gut. So that's the safety part of it. But the other thing is we use some critical nutrients that are very high digestibility or bioavailability, if I may use that term. Bioavailability means how much of any nutrient will get into the system of the animal and become functional rather than pass on through the animal. I use nothing but chelated trace minerals. The zinc, copper, manganese, and selenium, and even magnesium are all chelated, which means they're the most biologically available there are on the market. They're very expensive, but they're the most bioavailable. And I won't use anything that isn't the maximum benefit to the animal first, and then after that, then I will worry about the cost. But that's my secondary effect. Then I have a product in here called Ascophyllum nodosum, which is a specific species of seaweed that grows in the North Atlantic. And this is something that has several assets. First of all, it kills E. coli in the small intestine. That's documented by science. Texas Tech University has done that work. Secondly, it helps increase the immune system. That's also scientifically documented. But more importantly, it helps fiber digestion. Now, if you can control the bad bacteria in the hindgut and you can increase fiber digestion, several things happen. One is you have a very healthy animal because the health in the hindgut determines the immune system. So we have a strong immune system. The second thing is if you have a nice clean hindgut free of those pathogenic type bacteria, that the absorption of nutrients is much more effective. And so we've increased that. The third thing is that fiber digestibility increases because, and we're not sure exactly why, but it's documented again by research that the presence of this ascophylum nodosum increases the fiber digestibility, so a horse gets more out of every pound of hay they eat. So bottom line is, my whole philosophy has been to make the animal more efficient, make better use of the hay and grass you have at home, not buy more of my feed if your horse is working harder. That's what people don't understand. They say, well, if my horse is working harder than so-and-so's horse, how much should I feed? I said 4 pounds. Well, so-and-so's horse isn't working very hard. How much do they feed? 4 pounds. Well, how is that? It's because they adjust their energy, protein, and gross mineral intake by the amount of fiber or grass and hay they eat, not from my feed. And that's why I say I want to make it the most efficient for the animal, and then I'll worry about the rest of it later. And also, we have some things that people feed back to me all the time that use my program. The most common thing is the attitude of the horse. The attitude becomes calm, it becomes focused, they become focused with the rider and whoever's trying to teach them something. I've had people tell me, well, my horses became smarter when I went on Total Equine. I said, no. They're not smarter, but they are more relaxed and they're focused with you, so they are learning better. But it's not that they couldn't learn before. They just were not paying attention to what you're doing. They were watchy. We call them watchy horses. Well, that's what was going on. We stopped that. The second thing is the muscle bulks up. And we will get very massive type of muscles because, first of all, the muscles are hydrated with the ascophylum nodosum. Secondly, they actually grow. They're sending more nutrients. The muscles are going to grow bigger. And so that's very important. Then a third thing that they feed back to me is the hair coat. The hair coat grows very rapidly, and it actually changes color in some cases.
Wow.
And they marvel at that, but it's not that amazing because if hair grows faster, especially out in the sun, if they're out in the sun all the time, it stays a richer color. It doesn't bleach as bad. And that's really what they're seeing. And then the other thing is the belly. You hear people talk about the pregnant gelding syndrome.
Right.
When you stand behind a horse, you look at their rear end and you see this bulge on each side down at the bottom.
I think mine have that.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. But people are marvel at how that goes away when they're on Total Equine. And here's the reason. When they're eating Total Equine and the hay or grass is digesting more rapidly and more extensively, they suddenly don't need as much total of that fiber going through every day to meet their needs, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden, the amount it's going through faster, they're eating less of it, so they don't need that belly. And it's nothing real special. It's just the fact that we've increased the fiber digestibility.
Well, one of the things that I've heard from people that have used the product is that they don't have to feed as much as they do another type of grain. Is that true as well?
That is true. Our 4-pound feeding rate for a 1,000-pound body weight is probably one of the lowest in the industry. Most pelleted products will, the feeding rate, if you follow the feeding directions, depending on their use and so on, because they vary by most of them vary by the not only the size of the horse, but the amount of activity. And they will range anywhere from 6 to 8 and sometimes up to 10 pounds. And in some of the senior feeds, they'll range up to 12 and 14 pounds a day, where we feed 4 pounds a day to a 1,000-pound horse. Doesn't matter what they're doing. We feed the same formula to a baby that's 2 or 3 days old. They will start eating this. And we feed the same formula to that baby, to mom while she's lactating, to mom while she's in gestation, to the rope horse, the barrel horse, the lawn ornament, and the geriatric horse that's 35 years old. In fact, we have a lot of horses now across the country that are in excess of 35 years old. Their teeth are gone. They can't float their teeth anymore because they've been done so many times. They don't eat any hay or grass. All they eat is Total Equine.
Wow.
And they're doing very well. In fact, many of them have to soak the Total Equine, pour water in it so that it dissolves and gets mushy, and the horse just kind of swallows it.
Yeah.
They really don't even have to eat it. They just swallow it.
That's great. Now, people can get Total Equine at their local co-op, their feed and supply stores, and you're in about 41 states, is that right?
48 states now.
Wow, that's great.
And we have
You've grown.
we have about 1,200 dealers, but the Alabama Farmers Co-op system, they all have it available. Faithway, all of their dealers have it now. We in this part of the country, in Lake City, Florida, Central States Marketing, they have it. Eagle Roller Mill has it off to the east, so we're pretty well covered now. If people are looking for it, and if they can't find it, they can always get a hold of us, and we'll help them find one.
Okay, and what is your website where they can find information?
The website is totalfeeds.com.
Okay, and is there an email that you want to share or phone number?
Dr. Harry Anderson, drharryanderson at gmail.com, or they can call 620-272-1065.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like from the noise I'm hearing in the background that the meeting's about to start. So what can the folks expect to hear tonight from you?
Well, we're going to go through some of the basic stuff that I talked about, the digestive system, and why things work the way they do, and how I designed it to help the horse become the most efficient they possibly can be. And we're also going to be talking about some other species, too, that we do work with now.
That's awesome. And when you open this bag, I smelled a nice, fresh, fruity berry smell. What was that?
That's called crushed berry. And it's kind of a mixture of berry flavors, but to me it smells like green apples. Some people say it smells like blueberries or something like that. But it has a natural berry type odor to it, and that's what keeps animals on it, and they love it. They become addicted to that odor.
Definitely. I think my horses need to try it out.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.